The trio drove along the winding road that led to Eldridge, the remote village shrouded in folklore and mystery. As they approached, Oliver, the skeptical journalist, squinted at the dense trees lining the way, their branches twisted and gnarled like skeletal fingers reaching for the overcast sky. Clara, the superstitious historian, sat in the back seat, her fingers tracing the outline of an old leather-bound book filled with local legends. Lucas, the thrill-seeker, was in the passenger seat, his excitement palpable as the village came into view. "Look at that!" Lucas exclaimed, pointing toward the crumbling stone cottages that dotted the landscape. "It's like we've stepped back in time." Oliver rolled his eyes. "Or into a horror movie. I can just picture it now, a bunch of unsuspecting tourists disappearing one by one." Clara shot him a reproachful glance. "This isn't just a story, Oliver. Eldridge has a rich history, and the legends here are deeply rooted in tragedy." As they parked the car in the village square, an unsettling silence enveloped them. The air was thick with anticipation, a stillness that made Clara's skin prickle. "It's too quiet," she murmured, glancing around at the empty streets and shuttered windows. "Where is everyone?" "Probably hiding from the ghosts," Oliver joked, though he could feel an odd tension in the atmosphere. He grabbed his camera, eager to document their adventure, while Clara pulled out her book, flipping through the pages until she landed on a story that had long captivated her. "Have you heard about the Whispering Woods?" she asked, her voice low as if afraid that the very trees might overhear. "They say that lost souls beckon the living to join them." Lucas chuckled, though there was an edge of nervousness in his laughter. "Oh great, just what we need, ghosts whispering sweet nothings to us. Sounds like a blast." Clara frowned, her expression serious. "It's not a joke, Lucas. People have gone missing in those woods. It's said that if you listen closely, you can hear them calling for help." "Sure, and maybe we'll find a treasure chest full of gold while we're at it," Oliver chimed in, attempting to lighten the mood. But even he could sense that something was amiss as dusk began to settle over the village, casting long shadows that danced ominously around them. As the sun dipped below the horizon, they gathered around a small campfire near the edge of the woods. The flames flickered and crackled, providing a fragile barrier against the encroaching darkness. Lucas tossed a stick into the fire, watching it ignite with a thrill. "Let's hear more about this Whispering Woods then. You're the historian, Clara. What else do you know?" Clara took a deep breath, her eyes reflecting the firelight. "Legend has it that the woods are a portal to the other side. People who enter often hear whispers that draw them deeper, making it impossible to find their way back. It's said that the spirits are searching for something, or someone." "Sounds like a perfect place for a midnight stroll," Lucas quipped, but Clara's serious demeanor stifled his humor. "Don't underestimate it, Lucas," she replied, her voice tinged with concern. "There's a darkness there that can't be explained. I've read accounts of people feeling an overwhelming sense of dread, as if they were being watched." Oliver leaned forward, intrigued despite himself. "Have there been any recent disappearances?" Clara nodded slowly, her brow furrowed. "A few people have vanished over the years. The villagers believe it's the work of the woods. They warn others to stay away, but curiosity often gets the better of them." Just then, a sudden gust of wind swept through the clearing, rustling the leaves and sending a shiver down their spines. Clara instinctively pulled her jacket tighter around her shoulders, her gaze darting toward the shadowy outline of the woods. "We should be careful," she warned, her voice barely above a whisper. "The stories say that once you hear the whispers, it's too late." Lucas laughed again, trying to mask his unease. "Come on, what's a little adventure without a few ghost stories? We're not scared of some old legends." But as the fire crackled and the darkness deepened, the friends couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't alone. In the silence that followed, the whispering winds seemed to carry more than just the rustle of leaves. It felt as though the woods themselves were listening, waiting for the darkness to unveil its secrets. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows among the gnarled branches of the whispering woods. Oliver adjusted the camera on its tripod with meticulous care. The device glinted ominously in the dimming light as he fiddled with the settings, ensuring they captured the essence of their investigation. Clara stood nearby, her brow furrowed with apprehension. "What if the stories are true, Oliver?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "What if we disturb something we can't comprehend?" Oliver chuckled softly, shaking his head dismissively. "It's just folklore, Clara. Tales spun to entertain the gullible. We're here to uncover the truth behind these legends, not to fall prey to them." Lucas, ever the thrill-seeker, bounced on his heels, a glint of excitement in his eyes. "Come on, Clara. Lighten up. Let's have some fun. I want to see if we can find that child's ghost. It'll be a great story for the paper." Clara shot Lucas a disapproving look but couldn't help but feel an undercurrent of curiosity tugging at her. She had spent years studying the history of Eldridge and its chilling tales, but standing on the brink of the woods stirred something deep within her, a tether to the past she couldn't quite grasp. "You both don't understand. There's a reason these stories exist. The woods are alive with memories, and some of them are best left undisturbed." With a half-hearted nod, Oliver turned his attention back to the camera. "Just tell the story, Clara. Focus on the vanished child. It'll make for a compelling piece." As Clara began recounting the tale of the child who had mysteriously disappeared, her voice took on a rhythmic quality. "They say she wandered into the woods one day, drawn by the whispers of the trees. Her parents searched for days but found nothing but echoes of her laughter, now twisted into cries of despair." The air grew still, and a chill crept into the atmosphere as Clara continued. "Some believe her spirit remains here, forever trapped, seeking solace among the shadows." Suddenly, Lucas, unable to resist the lure of adventure, declared, "I'm going deeper into the woods. I want to see if I can find anything." He took a step forward, already veering off the path, eyes glimmering with reckless enthusiasm. "Lucas, wait!" Clara called, but her voice was swallowed by the thickening dusk. He waved her off, laughter trailing behind him as he ventured deeper into the trees. "Just a few minutes," he shouted back, his voice echoing ominously through the foliage. As Clara resumed her narration, she couldn't shake the feeling of unease that had settled in her stomach. With each word spoken, the woods seemed to respond, an almost palpable energy weaving through the air. It was as if the trees were leaning in, straining to listen to her recounting of their secrets. Then, unexpectedly, Clara heard it, a faint whisper, barely discernible, creeping in from the shadows. "Clara!" The sound was delicate yet insistent, like a lost child calling for help. She froze, heart pounding, and glanced toward the encroaching darkness. "What's wrong?" Oliver asked, noticing her sudden stillness. "I heard something," she murmured, eyes wide with alarm. "It called my name." Oliver raised an eyebrow, skepticism etched on his face. "You're just letting your imagination run wild. It's probably just the wind." But Clara shook her head, her instincts screaming that this was more than just a trick of the mind. "No, Oliver. It was a voice. I'm telling you." The atmosphere thickened, an eerie silence settling over the woods, as if the very essence of the forest was holding its breath. The whispers returned, wrapping around her like a chilling embrace. "Clara. Let's go find Lucas," Oliver suggested, attempting to sound nonchalant, but the tremor in his voice betrayed his own rising anxiety. Clara nodded, her heart racing. "Yes, we must. He shouldn't be alone in there." Together, they stepped cautiously into the shadowy depths of the whispering woods, the whispers growing louder, more urgent, as if beckoning Clara forward. With every step, the air grew colder, and the trees seemed to loom closer, their twisted branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. "Lucas!" Clara called, her voice trembling as the whispers intensified, wrapping around her like a shroud. "Where are you?" But deep in the forest, Lucas, oblivious to the danger, ventured further into the unknown, laughing lightly to himself, unaware of the dark spirits that surrounded him, waiting just beyond the veil of reality. The sun rose reluctantly over Eldridge, casting long shadows that danced among the twisted trees of the whispering woods. Clara, Oliver, and Lucas stood at the entrance of an old, dilapidated cottage, its weathered boards creaking in the morning breeze. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves, a reminder of the passage of time and the secrets the village held. "Let's check it out," Lucas said, his voice a mixture of excitement and bravado. He pushed open the creaking door, revealing a dimly lit interior, cluttered with relics of a forgotten past. Dust motes floated in the shafts of light that broke through the grimy windows, and the silence was palpable, as though the cottage itself was holding its breath. Clara stepped inside cautiously, her heart racing. "I've read about places like this," she murmured, scanning the walls adorned with peeling wallpaper. "They often harbor stories of their own, like echoes of the people who lived here. Or they're just full of old junk," Oliver quipped, rolling his eyes. He pulled out his camera, adjusting the lens to capture the eerie ambience. "Come on, let's document this. If we find something interesting, it'll be a great addition to my article." Lucas chuckled, rummaging through a pile of old newspapers on a rickety table. "You're just looking for a reason to dismiss anything spooky we find, aren't you, Ollie?" He glanced over at Clara, who was peering closely at an old photograph hanging crookedly on the wall. "What do you think?" Clara's breath hitched as she recognized the face in the photograph. "This woman," she started, her voice barely above a whisper. "She looks like the one from the legends, the one who vanished in the woods." Oliver stepped closer, skeptical yet intrigued. "It's probably just a coincidence. People have similar features, you know. It doesn't mean anything." But Clara shook her head, her fingers brushing against the frame as if trying to connect with the past. "No, it feels different. I've seen her described countless times in the lore. She's part of this village's history." As they continued to explore, Lucas's laughter faded, replaced by an unsettling feeling that crept up his spine. "Hey, did you guys hear that?" he asked suddenly, his eyes darting toward the door. "Hear what?" Clara and Oliver replied in unison, their curiosity piqued. I don't know. It felt like someone was outside." Lucas's bravado diminished, replaced by a slight tremor in his voice. "Relax, it's probably just a squirrel or something," Oliver said, though he couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. "Let's just finish looking around here." They ventured deeper into the cottage, uncovering dusty books and broken furniture. The atmosphere thickened, and an unshakable sensation of being watched settled over them. Clara's anxiety spiked as she caught the fleeting impression of movement through the window. She turned, peering out into the dense woods, but saw nothing. "Guys, we should probably get going," she suggested, her voice laced with urgency. "Something doesn't feel right." As they stepped out of the cottage, the air seemed to shift around them, a chill settling in their bones. Lucas paused, glancing back at the cottage, then at the trees behind them. "Is it just me, or does it feel like we're being followed?" "Followed?" Oliver scoffed, but as he turned, he felt a prickle of unease. Clara's heart raced as she scanned the area. "It's not just you, Lucas. I feel it too." Suddenly, Lucas's eyes widened, and he pointed toward the tree line. "There. I swear I saw something move." Oliver, still skeptical, turned to confront whatever it was. "Come on, this is ridiculous." But before he could finish, Lucas had already taken a step forward, squinting into the shadows. "Hello? Is someone there?" His voice echoed back, met only by the rustling leaves. The three friends stood frozen, the silence amplifying the sound of their own breathing. Just as Lucas was about to venture further, a fleeting figure emerged from the corner of his eye. He turned sharply, but as quickly as it had appeared, it vanished. "Did you see that?" he gasped, his bravado completely gone. The figure? Clara asked, her expression a mix of fear and curiosity. Yeah. It was right there. Lucas gestured wildly toward the woods. Oliver furrowed his brow, his skepticism wavering. All right, let's get back to the village. We've had enough of this. Clara nodded, her heart heavy with a sense of foreboding. As they began to walk back, the whispering winds seemed to call out to her, a haunting melody that tugged at her very soul. The woods loomed around them, ancient and alive, hiding secrets that were not ready to be uncovered. As they ventured deeper into the whispering woods, an ominous stillness enveloped Oliver, Clara, and Lucas. The dense canopy overhead seemed to muffle sound, creating an eerie silence that only heightened Clara's growing anxiety. Her eyes darted from tree to tree, as if expecting a shadow to leap out at any moment. Are you sure we should be here? Clara asked, her voice barely above a whisper. She brushed her fingertips along the rough bark of a nearby tree, feeling an unsettling chill beneath her skin. I can feel them watching us. Come on, Clara, Oliver replied, his tone dismissive yet tinged with concern. You can't honestly believe in all these ghost stories. It's just old folklore meant to scare children. We're perfectly safe. He adjusted his camera, capturing the dim light filtering through the leaves, trying to shake off the unease creeping up his spine. Safe? Have you forgotten about the bloodied handprints we found earlier? Clara shot back, her voice rising with frustration. She stopped walking, turning to face Oliver. This isn't just a joke, Oliver. This place has a history, and it's not a pleasant one. Lucas, ever the thrill-seeker, chuckled as he swung his flashlight around, illuminating the underbrush. Come on, you two. Don't tell me you're scared of a few old tales. Where's your sense of adventure? He took a few steps forward, his bravado masking the subtle tremors in his hands. Adventure? Clara echoed, her voice strained. What do you call wandering into the depths of a haunted forest? This isn't just a game, Lucas. She took a deep breath, trying to steady her nerves. I can feel something is off. Let's just keep moving, Oliver suggested, feeling the weight of Clara's anxiety. He glanced around, searching for signs of their surroundings, but the oppressive air left him feeling disoriented. We need to gather more evidence if we're going to debunk these legends. As they pressed on, Clara felt a prickling sensation at the back of her neck, as if 1,000 eyes were boring into her. She hesitated, casting a wary glance over her shoulder. Suddenly, she thought she heard a whisper, soft yet distinct, her name. Clara. It drifted through the trees like a sigh, and her heart raced. Did you hear that? She asked, her voice trembling. Hear what? Oliver replied, brow furrowed in confusion. There's nothing. Clara. The voice echoed again, this time louder, more insistent. She stumbled back, nearly tripping over a gnarled root. Okay, this is getting creepy, Lucas said, his playful demeanor faltering. He turned to Oliver, who was now scanning the trees, a frown etched on his face. Maybe we should head back. Before Oliver could respond, a sudden chill swept through the clearing. The air thickened, and the shadows seemed to deepen, swirling around them. Clara stepped closer to Oliver, her breath hitching. Look over there, Oliver said, pointing toward a large oak tree. What is that? As they approached, Clara's stomach churned at the sight of deep, bloodied handprints smeared across the bark, crimson against the earthy brown. This is real, she breathed, her earlier bravado evaporating. This isn't just folklore anymore. Maybe it's just paint. Lucas suggested, though his voice lacked confidence. He reached out to touch the prints, but Clara grabbed his arm, her eyes wide. No. Don't, she exclaimed. What if it's a warning? Just then, a piercing scream shattered the stillness, echoing through the woods like a wailing banshee. The sound sent a jolt of terror through their veins, freezing them in place. "Did you hear that?" Lucas asked, his voice barely above a whisper, fear evident in his eyes. "Of course I heard it," Clara replied, her heart racing. "We need to get out of here." Oliver's skepticism faltered, replaced by a dawning horror as he scanned the darkness. "We can't just leave. We need to figure out where that scream came from." "Are you insane?" Clara shouted, her panic rising. "We should run while we can." "Wait!" Oliver called, but Clara was already moving, her instincts kicking in. She pushed past him, her feet pounding against the forest floor as she sought the safety of the path they had come from. Lucas followed closely behind, glancing over his shoulder as if expecting something to leap from the shadows. The woods seemed to close in around them, the trees looming like silent sentinels. Clara's breath came in short gasps as they raced through the undergrowth, the chilling echoes of the scream still ringing in their ears. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows over the village of Eldridge as Oliver, Clara, and Lucas trudged towards the dilapidated cottage where Mrs. Hawthorne lived. The air was thick with an uneasy tension, and Clara could feel the weight of the whispers from the woods pressing against her mind. "I just don't understand why we're doing this," Oliver muttered, adjusting the straps of his camera bag. "We have enough stories for our piece without digging up the past of some old woman." Clara shot him a glare. "Because, Oliver, the legends are not just stories. They're warnings. And if we're going to understand what's happening in this village, we need to hear them." Lucas, ever the thrill-seeker, nudged Oliver with a grin. "Come on, mate. Where's your sense of adventure? This is exactly what we came for. Besides, what's the worst that could happen?" As they approached the weathered door of Mrs. Hawthorne's home, the atmosphere grew heavier. The cottage appeared almost alive, with ivy creeping up its sides and windows clouded with age. Clara hesitated for a moment, her hand hovering above the door, before she knocked. The sound echoed ominously in the stillness. Moments later, the door creaked open, revealing a frail woman with silver hair and deep-set eyes that sparkled with a hint of sorrow. "You shouldn't be here," Mrs. Hawthorne said, her voice a raspy whisper. "The woods have eyes, and they watch you." "We need to talk to you," Clara said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her heart. "We're investigating the legends of Eldridge, specifically, the Whispering Woods." Mrs. Hawthorne's face darkened, her expression shifting to one of profound grief. "Legends, you say? They are not just tales. They are the echoes of pain, the memories of loss." She paused, glancing over her shoulder as if expecting someone, or something, to appear. "My daughter, she wandered into those woods years ago. Vanished without a trace." Oliver's skepticism broke momentarily. "What happened? What did you see?" Mrs. Hawthorne's gaze drifted to the ground. "I saw her, you know. Just for a moment. She was calling for me, her voice carried by the wind. But when I reached out, she disappeared like mist." Tears glistened in her eyes, and she swallowed hard. "I fear she is still there, trapped between worlds." Lucas leaned forward, curiosity piqued. "What do you mean by trapped? Is there something in those woods?" "They are not just trees," Mrs. Hawthorne said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "They are a gateway. Many have gone in, but few return. The spirits, they take what they want, and they don't care for the living." Clara felt a chill run down her spine. "But why? Why your daughter? Why anyone?" "The woods are hungry," Mrs. Hawthorne replied, her voice tinged with desperation. "They crave souls, and once they have a taste, they won't let go." Oliver stepped forward, his skepticism battling against the fear creeping into his mind. "And what do you suggest we do? Just walk away?" Mrs. Hawthorne's eyes bore into him, a piercing gaze that seemed to see through to his very soul. "You must leave. Leave while you still can. I've lost too much. I won't see others suffer the same fate." The trio stood in silence, the weight of her words hanging heavily in the air. Clara looked at Oliver and Lucas, their expressions a mix of disbelief and concern. "We can't just abandon this investigation," she insisted, her voice firm. "We have to understand what's going on." "You don't get it, Clara," Oliver exclaimed, his voice rising. "This is not a game. We're talking about real danger here." Just then, a distant scream pierced the air, chilling them to their bones. It echoed through the village, rising and falling like a mournful song. Mrs. Hawthorne flinched, her face paling. "You see. The woods call to you. They want you to know their secrets." The friends exchanged glances, the gravity of their situation sinking in. "What do we do now?" Lucas asked, his bravado faltering. Mrs. Hawthorne stepped back, her frail form trembling. "You must leave. Now." As they turned to leave, a sense of foreboding settled over them. But the village held on to its secrets tightly, and as they reached their car, a grim discovery awaited them. The engine sputtered ineffectively, the dashboard lights flickering like dying stars. "No, no, no." Oliver cursed, turning the key repeatedly, but it was futile. The car was dead. "What now?" Clara asked, panic lacing her voice. Lucas looked around, the shadows of the village seeming to close in. "We're stuck here, aren't we?" The reality of their situation loomed over them like the dark trees of the whispering woods, and as they stood there, the whispers began again, rising like a haunting melody on the wind, beckoning them to uncover the truth that lay hidden beneath the surface of Eldridge. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the haunted village of Eldridge, Clara gathered her friends around the dim glow of the campfire. The crackling flames danced wildly, illuminating their anxious faces, and for the first time since they had arrived, Clara felt a weight on her chest that she couldn't shake. "I have to tell you something," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Oliver and Lucas exchanged glances, curiosity piqued. I think I'm connected to this place in a way I can't fully explain." Oliver leaned in, skepticism etched on his face. "What do you mean, connected? You've been telling us ghost stories since we got here. Is this another one?" "No, Oliver," Clara insisted, her voice rising slightly. "It's not just stories. This village, it calls to me. I keep hearing whispers, and I can't help but feel that it's something more." "What kind of whispers?" Lucas asked, his interest growing. The thrill-seeker in him thrived on the prospect of a deeper mystery. Clara took a deep breath, her eyes glistening in the firelight. "They call my name. It's like they're reaching out to me. I was drawn here for a reason." Oliver raised an eyebrow, his skepticism wavering. "You can't be serious. You think you have some kind of destiny tied to this creepy village?" "Yes," Clara exclaimed, frustration bubbling to the surface. "And I think I'm the reincarnation of Mrs. Hawthorne's daughter." The air thickened with tension as the weight of her words sunk in. Lucas shifted his gaze to the dark woods surrounding them. "That's a pretty big claim, Clara. You really believe that?" "I don't know if I believe it entirely, but it feels right. It's like I've been here before, like I belong here," she confessed, her voice trembling. Suddenly, the eerie whispers returned, weaving through the trees, a haunting melody that sent chills down their spines. Clara's breath caught in her throat, and she stood up, looking into the darkness. "Do you hear that?" "Clara, don't," Oliver warned, but she was already stepping away from the fire, drawn toward the source of the voices. "Wait!" Lucas shouted, scrambling to his feet. "Where are you going?" "I have to follow them," Clara called back, urgency in her tone. The whispers intensified, wrapping around her like a ghostly embrace. The air felt charged, electric, as if the very fabric of the night was alive. Before Oliver and Lucas could stop her, Clara plunged into the underbrush, the shadows swallowing her whole. The two friends exchanged worried glances, and without a second thought, they chased after her, heartbeats racing. "Clara!" Oliver shouted, trying to keep her in sight. The whispers grew louder, echoing in a cacophony of lost voices, guiding Clara deeper into the woods. As they reached a clearing, the moonlight illuminated an ancient burial ground, stones weathered by time standing sentinel over the graves. Clara froze, tears welling in her eyes as she stepped forward, sensing a profound connection to the earth beneath her feet. "Clara, wait!" Lucas yelled, but she was entranced, kneeling before a cracked stone that bore the name Evelyn Hawthorne. The whispers crescendoed, forming a chorus that felt both inviting and chilling. "Mom," Clara breathed, realizing the truth that had been hidden from her. "I'm Evelyn." The realization struck like lightning. The malevolent presence that had seemed so threatening was, in fact, a guardian. The spirits were not there to harm her, they sought to reunite her with her mother, to break the curse that had haunted Eldridge for generations. "Oliver, Lucas," she called, her voice steady now. "It's all right. They're here to help me." Oliver looked around, the skepticism in his heart slowly dissipating as he felt the weight of the past pressing down on him. "You're sure?" "Yes," Clara said, a serene smile spreading across her face. "This is where I belong. We need to finish what was started." Lucas swallowed hard, glancing at the stones. "So, what do we do?" Clara took a deep breath, feeling the spirits surround her, their energy enveloping her in warmth. "We honor them. We set them free." As she began to whisper a prayer, Oliver and Lucas joined her, the air shimmering with the power of their words. In that moment, they felt the darkness lift, the malevolent presence transforming into something pure and protective. The whispers faded, replaced by a soft, comforting silence that wrapped around them like a blanket. Clara closed her eyes, feeling a sense of peace wash over her. At last, the curse of Eldridge was breaking, and the spirits of the past could finally rest.